I talk about it all the time. Habits have helped me sustain my performance over time. After I burned out in the summer of 2018, I had to create a new set of habits and routines to stay focused and concentrated without burning out. So I created a lot of different routines over the last 3.5 years, like for example my morning routine. I created a habit on how to manage my time, how to prioritize, how to manage my calendar. I also created a habit around exercising and a self-care habit, and also a journaling habit. So all of these different things have really helped me to stay focused and productive. And I know that sometimes it might be challenging to know how to get started. So I wanted to create a video for you where I talk with you specifically about how to build habits that stay. Where do you get started? How do you get started? And why is it so hard to get started in the first place? Those are all questions that I want to talk with you about today in this video. So I would say, let's get started. Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm a peak performance coach and stress management trainer, and I'm really excited to talk with you today about how to build habits. Really, anything new you start in your life requires habit building, right? It requires that you're getting started, that you're having a process, that you're making a plan, and that you're building a new habit around whatever you set your mind to. And so it can be really helpful to understand how to build a habit in the first place and why it is so difficult to start a habit. And that's the very first question that I want to answer in today's video, because I think it can be really helpful to understand that in order to make it maybe a little bit easier on yourself in the future when you're starting a new habit. So when you are building a new habit, you're basically creating a new pathway in your brain, right? So you need to understand that every time you have built a habit, like for example your exercise routine or your eating routine or even your time management routine and habit, then there's a certain process that is just happening in your brain without you even thinking about it. It's basically automatic, right? And that helps obviously your whole body and mind to conserve energy, which is why habits are so important. So when you are trying to build a new habit, you obviously need to exert, especially at the beginning, more energy, because you are training your brain to start doing something regularly that is not a habit in the first place. So it is not automatic yet. And every time it is not automatic, it is more difficult to actually start it, right? So when you start a new habit, you're basically rewiring your brain to build something new. Build a new highway, for example. That's kind of how I like to think about it. And in order to make that happen, you kind of need to tell yourself internally, you might need to have an internal conversation with yourself to tell yourself, hey, what I'm doing here is actually absolutely safe. Because here's the thing, your brain might think at the beginning that when you're starting to try and integrate a new habit in your life, that it's actually not safe, right? Because it is not going down this automated path, it is going into a new path. And that new path seems scary to your brain, because your brain doesn't know the difference between what is good for you and what is bad for you. It only knows what you've been repeatedly doing over and over and over again. So when you're building a new habit, at first your brain is always going to go into this alert mode that says, I don't really know if this is safe. And you might start to come up with all of these amazing excuses why you shouldn't start going into the gym today, or why you really don't have time to sit down and manage your calendar, right? We are coming up with all of these fantastic excuses just to make sure that we're staying in our old pattern and our old habit. And once you know that, once this is actually ingrained in your brain as well, that this is just a normal behavior and a normal reaction to what you're trying to do, then you can overcome that as well, right? Because now you know, now you have built that awareness, and so now you can basically just kind of push through that. And that's really what you have to do at the beginning. Sometimes you have to push yourself a little bit and force yourself to get started and to stick to a plan and to a new routine in order to build that habit and build that more automated process. So that is the very first thing that I wanted to share with you today, and I hope you find that just as insightful as I found it when I heard it for the very first time, because it can really help you to build a new habit and try to train your brain into something more useful in the future. Now that you know that, let's jump into the very first step that you need to know in order to build a new habit. And obviously, The very first thing, if you want to build a new habit, is the question, what kind of habit do you want to develop, right? First of all, you need to get clear on what is it that you want to do. And that could be literally anything. Anything at all requires kind of habit building. So no matter if it is eating healthier, drinking a glass of water 3 times a day, managing your calendar more regularly, setting better boundaries, and having a conversation with your partner on a regular basis, right? All of these things kind of require a process and an automation and a habit. And so that is the first thing that you need to identify. So you really want to make sure that you are clear on which habit you want to build, no matter if it is a habit that will help you be more performant in your day-to-day, or maybe even a habit where you are trying to not snooze your alarm clock anymore in the morning in order to get faster out of bed. That could be a habit as well, right? So really think about what is holding you back from living your fullest potential. And once you have the answer to that very first question, I want you to go into step number 2. And step number 2 of how to build habits is the question, what really motivates you to start that new habit? So what is the motivation? Why do you really want to do this? Do you want to be healthier? Do you want to lose weight? Do you want to feel more focused? And you have heard that journaling is really good for that, or exercising is really good for that. What is your motivation to get started? And that is really important. That is a really important question, because sometimes we think we want to build a habit because we have heard that from a friend, or, you know, just kind of our culture suggests that that's what you should be doing. But maybe you don't really have a very strong intrinsic motivation to do that. So it is a very important question, and very important for you to make sure that you stick to your new habit and to your new routine, to make sure that you're really actually motivated to do that. Because if there is no strong motivation behind your new habit, it might be a lot more difficult to stick to it. So one thing that I highly encourage you to do is to, when you are writing down your motivation of why you want to start with specific habit X, that you also answer the question why 7 times. So ask yourself 7 times, why do I want to do this? So for example, you might say, I want to exercise more regularly because I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? Well, because maybe you want to look better in a swimsuit. Why do you want to look better in a swimsuit? Well, because you want to impress your partner. Why do you want to impress your partner? Maybe you want to impress your partner because it is important for you that you are seen as an active person, and you want to, you just feel better when you are being active. Why are you feeling better when you're being active, right? And so as you're going down this chain of asking yourself the question, why, then you're actually getting down to the root of things, of what really motivates you to start with that habit. And once you have really identified that clear motivation, it should be a little bit easier for you to get started as well. So that is step number 2. So once you have identified, obviously, the habit that you want to get started with and the motivation behind it, then I highly encourage you to start small. It is super important to start with a SMART goal. SMART stands for specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. And you really want to make sure that your goal is set up that way. So I highly encourage you, and this is something that I do in my own life, is that you only start to build 1 habit per month. And once you have established that habit for that first 4 weeks or 5 weeks, then you can go back to the drawing board and actually ask yourself the question, did that work out? Did that goal that I set for myself, was that realistic? Did that work well with my schedule? Because sometimes you might have an idea of what works for you, but then when you're actually starting to try and integrate it, you might realize, doesn't work so well. You can find a lot of that insight in my monthly Plan With Me videos, because in my monthly Plan With Me videos, I am telling you about the goals that I have and that I set for myself. And one of the things, if you're watching those videos, you know that I'm, for example, always trying to be active in some way, right? Sometimes I try to exercise 5 times a week. In March, I ran every single day. And in April, I set the goal to exercise every single day. And that was not possible. So in May, I basically reset myself the goal to just exercise 5 times a week. And so it is really interesting to go through this process and to set these different goals in order to really see what works for you, what doesn't. And I find it really helpful to do that with taking one habit at a time and starting really small. So for example, you might want to start exercising. I'm just going to stick with that because it's an easy example. And so maybe at the beginning your goal is to exercise 3 times for 15 minutes. Be as specific as possible. Make it measurable, make it timely, make it specific in terms of when are you going to do that during the week. Are you going to do it on Monday or on Tuesday or on Wednesday? Are you going to do it at 8 o'clock in the morning or at 5 o'clock in the evening or maybe during your lunchtime? That's all right and great, but make sure that you are specific. Don't just say, yeah, I think I'm going to start doing that, and then never get started, right? And that brings me to step number 4, which is getting started. You have to get started. This is important, right? When you want to build a new habit, you need to take action. And obviously you need to get started in order to see progress. And once you see progress, will you be hopefully more motivated to keep on going as well. And sometimes you might not feel very motivated to get started. Maybe you have to force yourself a little bit, because maybe initially you felt super inspired to start with this new habit, but then your brain is coming up with all of these different excuses of why you can't really do that today or tomorrow or the next day. And so you have to, as I already mentioned at the beginning of the video, you really have to push through that and just get started. So in order to do that, I highly encourage you to make a plan, which I already explained, and then put that, for example, on your calendar or somewhere really where you can see it, in order to make sure that you're really sticking to your plan. And that then brings me to the next step, which is track your progress. I find it super helpful to track my progress every single day and every single week and every single month in order to know how I am doing towards the goal. So for example, in the Peak Performance Planner, I have an overview page where I am writing down if I actually exercised every single day, what kind of exercise did I do, and then if I did do some exercise, I make a little check mark. And it's really interesting because it has really helped me to stick to my own goals and to not really need an outside partner to do that. But maybe you need an outside partner. So that will bring me to another step, which I'm going to talk about in a second. But first of all, let's talk about tracking progress. So make sure that you are either having a calendar where you can mark and track your progress, or maybe you have a fitness app like Strava, where you can obviously see what kind of exercises you did throughout the week and throughout the month. So though all of these things are great and can be really useful to help you stay accountable and committed to yourself. And if that is not the case, then I'm going to go right into the next step, which is find an accountability buddy. It can be super helpful if you are trying to build a new habit to find someone that has the same goal as you and then help each other stay committed to that goal. So for example, in the month of March, I was running every single day. It was my challenge to run 30 days in a row. And I actually had a really good friend of mine, Sarah, that ran together with me. And it was fantastic because every single night we sent each other a picture and a little note via text message to tell each other how much we ran, that we actually went on our run, etc. And that was super motivating because every single time I didn't feel like running and Sarah sent me her little update, I was like, come on Julia, you can do it, right? And it really pushed me to keep it up, because I obviously didn't want to look bad and I wanted to keep the motivation up. And same for Sarah, right? She had some days as well where she felt super unmotivated, and then I would check in with her and she would be like, okay, let's do it, and I'm gonna go out and run. So an accountability buddy is super helpful. It can be a friend, it can be a family member, it can be a colleague, it can be a coach, it can be a trainer, it can be a therapist. No matter what you're working on, try to find the person that's right for you, try to find the right mentor. And a really interesting statistic about accountability buddies as well is that if you have an accountability buddy, you're usually 60 to 80% more likely to stick through that goal and to that routine, which is super powerful. Hey, come on, if that is not, you know, evidence enough that an accountability buddy is super powerful, then I don't know what else is going to be. So find an accountability buddy in order to help you stick to your new habit. So the final step that I want to share with you today is the step using visual cues. This is something that I just very recently learned about from James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, which is, by the way, a book that I reviewed on my YouTube channel as well in January, so make sure that you check out that video. And he talks about using visual cues in order to build habits, and I found that super powerful. Even though maybe in some form or another I already kind of did that in my life, I've been a lot more aware of that part of the habit building in the past few months, and that's been really helpful. helpful. So one thing that I did, for example, is to just put a piece of paper on my mirror to remind myself of the supplements that I want to take or the exercise routine that I want to take. Or for example, putting my running shoes right in front of my door in order to make sure that I don't forget to go for a run, right? Kind of simple things like that can make a huge, tremendous difference in your life and can help you to really build a habit and stick to it. So visual cues, something super, super powerful and something that I highly recommend you testing out in order to help you not just build that habit, but also stick to it. So that's all I wanted to share. Basically, it's pretty simple as always, right? There's 5-6 different steps that you need to follow in order to build a habit, and there's a good reason why your brain might tell you at the beginning that you shouldn't be doing it because it doesn't feel safe, but your brain just doesn't know any better. So you gotta ignore your brain a little bit there for a little bit and just, you know, kind of signal to your brain, hey, this is actually really good and really safe for us. Like for example, exercising, right? Your brain might find a lot of cool different excuses why you can't do it. But once you are starting to have positive feedback, right? Like hormones that are being released because you just had a wonderful workout, for example, then it will help you obviously to build that momentum and stick to your new habit that you're trying to build. And oftentimes, honestly, it's really all about discipline as well. There's another video on my YouTube channel about self-discipline as well. Make sure that you check it out because I think habit building and self-discipline honestly comes hand in hand, because there is a little bit of discipline required in order to make this happen. But I know that you can absolutely do it. So don't give up. Don't think that you are just not born this way, but just try it out, and you know, and you will see the positive benefits, and that will be, I think, enough in order to help you really build the life that you've always wanted to live. So I really hope that you found this video helpful. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and leave me a comment down below if you have any other questions for me, or if you want to share with the community which habit you are starting to build. So thank you so much for watching this video today. Take care of yourself, and I really do hope to see you in the next video.